So let's take a look at modules. What is a module? Well, a module in Canvas is basically an organizational shell. You can use modules to organize your content by week, by unit, or by any other method that you would normally lay out your normal class with. It's like an outline for your course. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a module, which is essentially an empty shell, and then we're going to fill that shell with content, assignments, and other activities. So let's get started. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I'll go ahead and just jump into this Intro to Woods class that I happen to have. You can see that I have my lessons set up, Lesson 1 trees, Lesson 2 birds, Lesson 3 rocks. So let's go ahead and jump in and start making modules in another course. I'll go back to my dashboard. And I'm going to jump inside of my demo class here. And once again, I will look for modules on my left-hand side. You can see that it brings me to the modules on my homepage because that's by default what your homepage is set to. But in case you don't see it, or in case you decide to play around a little bit, you can just go to modules. And then up here at the top in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the blue plus module button. So let's go ahead and click on that. I get a chance to name my module and I get a chance to lock it. Now, the name that I give my module should be the way that I want to lay out my course. So if I want to do it by weeks or by units or by lessons, that's what I should type into this module name. I'll go ahead and type in Unit 1. Good place to start. And you can see that I can lock my module. Now, what this does, this allows the students to see the module, but doesn't allow them to access any of the content inside of it. So if I choose lock, it's going to ask me when I want it to be unlocked. And I could come in here and I could put in whatever date I needed. Say that I wanted to set things up for second semester, but I didn't want the students to see that until after the break. I could come in here and set it to January 1st, 2021, if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that right now, but that is an option that you have inside of your modules. So I'll just uncheck that and I'll click Add Module. So now we have our module. It's Unit 1 and there's nothing in it. So how do I get stuff inside of my module? Well, to do that, I need to come to the right-hand side and I need to click this plus. You can see in here I have a couple of assignments already. But if I didn't have any assignments, it would be completely blank and it would just say New Assignment. And I could add an assignment to Unit 1. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but right now let's take a look at the other options that we could add. You can see I could add a quiz. Once again, if I have quizzes already created, I can pull those in from here, or I can create a new quiz. I can add a file, if I happen to have some files. I can add a page, which is a way of displaying information without really having any activities assigned to it. I could add in a new discussion. Canvas allows for discussion boards. I could add in a text header. And the text header is essentially just another heading. Think of it like a subheading that you could use to organize information inside of your module. I could add in an external URL. So if I had a link to a website or a Google Sheet or a slideshow, I could put that right inside of here. And then finally, the external tool, which is some other things that have been built into Canvas. We'll talk about those a little bit later as well. I'm going to head to text header. So since I'm inside of Unit 1, I'll call this Lesson 1. And I can indent it just to help with the organizational flow. And I'll click Add Item. So I've got my module set up, but I don't have anything inside of it. So let's go ahead and walk through adding a quick assignment. I'll come back to my plus, and I'll choose Assignment, and I'll choose New Assignment, and I'll just call this one Survey. And I'll hit Add Item. Now my survey is here, but once again, there's really nothing inside of it. So if I click on Survey, which is my assignment now, I'll get a chance to come up and edit it. So I'll choose Edit. And this now brings me to the Assignment tab. I could go straight here and create my assignments beforehand and then add them to my module if I'd like, or I can create my module and then add my assignments. I can do it either way. So I'll start with my survey. And I'll make this one a pretty simple survey. In this case, I just want the students to tell me what they did this summer. As I scroll down, I can add points. I can choose which group this assignment goes to. And we'll cover this a little bit later, but for right now, just know that I can group my assignments to help track them not only with the type of assignment that they are, but also inside of SIS. So I'll call this a new group, and I'll call it survey. I'll click add group. I want this to display the greatest points. That's fine. I do have a couple of other options here though. I can also choose not to count this assignment towards the final grade. For the submission type, there's a couple of different options that I have here as well. I can choose not to have anything submitted. So maybe this is just an activity I want them to do, but there's nothing to turn in. I could choose to have it online. I could choose to have them do this on paper. So maybe I wanted to give them this prompt, but I wanted them to actually write it down on a piece of paper. So I could choose that option, or I could choose the external tool. Now, when we use the external tools, that's when we get into using things like Google Assignments and Google Docs. We'll talk about that in another video as well. For this, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to go with online. So what type of online submission do I want? Do I want a text entry where the students get a box to type into? Do I want them to send me a website? Do I want them to record with media so they can actually record themselves, sort of like a Flipgrid? Or do I want them to upload a file? To keep things simple, I'll just go with text entry. How many attempts I want them to have, whether unlimited or limited. Whether or not this is a group assignment. Whether or not this is for peer review. And who this gets assigned to. By default, it's going to go to everyone, but let's say that if this assignment was only for a few students, I could click in here, get a list of my students, and I could choose it from there. I'll just go ahead and leave it at everyone. I could set my due date and my due date time. Now, by default, that will be midnight. And then when my assignment is available. So when can the students access it? It won't be accessible before the first date, and it won't be accessible after the until date. And when everything is all said and done, I'll just click Save and Publish. This gives me an overview of what my assignment is, and I can come down here and add a rubric to it. So I'll go ahead and click Rubric. I happen to have some that are set up already, and we'll cover rubrics in another video as well. But since I happen to have one, I'll just choose Find a Rubric, and I'll just use my essay rubric. And it sets that up for me. So everything is saved. If I go back to my modules, I've got my Unit 1, I've got my Lesson 1, and I've got my survey inside of that. So let's take a look at what that looks like for the student. If I go to Home, and I choose Student View, the student doesn't see anything. And that's because I haven't published this module yet. Each module that you create has to be published. So you can create your modules in advance and students won't be able to see it until you publish it. So I'm going to leave the student view. And now I'll come over here to Unit 1. This little no symbol is the publish symbol. So I'll click that and it will publish everything inside of that module. Now if I go to my student view, I can see that survey, I can see Lesson 1, and I can see that unit there. I'll leave this again. If I wanted to, of course, I could rearrange the information inside of here simply by clicking and dragging. And if I had more than one module, I could rearrange them there as well. From our menu over here on the side, I can edit this, I can move it, I can change the contents, I can duplicate it, I can delete it, or I can share it with other teachers. I also have some options inside of my assets as well. So if I wanted to edit it, move it, or delete it, I could do it from here.